in our everyday life, as we go on day to day, we all have to communicate with each other. And the way we communicate with each other is through the use of language, whether it be written or spoken. Now, through the nature of language and its the fact that it's just representing ideas, there's a lot of ambiguity that can come as a result of that. Even as native English speakers, we can also often have trouble with understanding one another and also with understanding what someone may have written. So an example of that would be these three pieces of sentences. So the first one says, red rhymes with lead and read rhymes with lead, but red and lead don't rhyme, and neither do red and lead. Now just reading that, it's hard to make sense of what the sentence is actually trying to make sense of. But hearing it out loud, then you get the clues that tell you what it is it is trying to communicate. In the second sentence, looking at it just by words, you have 4 hads in a row. To me, that looks really weird, but it does make grammatic sense, and it does make sense. All the faith he had no effect on the outcome of his life. Naturally, we would never use this as a sentence. It's just too confusing and would not get the message across. The last one is, one morning I shot an elephant in my pajamas. How he got in my pajamas, I'll never know. This ambiguity is produced by, we inherently think of the first sentence in one way, but the second sentence then tells us that you should interpret it a different way. So today I want to introduce you to the differences between the Japanese language's 3 writing systems and how they all work together to get rid of this ambiguity that's present in language. So there's 3 writing systems in the Japanese language. The first one's called hiragana, the second one's called katakana, and the last one's called kanji. And I'm going to start off with the first one. So hiragana, it could be comparable to our alphabet, our letters that we use to create words. So hiragana are these symbols right here, and they're phonetic and syllabic. So each character represents a sound. So their sounds are made up of vowels and then also vowels and consonants together. So you have a, I, u, e, o, and then ka, ki, ku, ke, ko, and so on. And then the syllables are written right here. Well, the English, the Latin writing is right here. And this writing system is mainly used for grammar and it tells you how the words are to be pronounced. And it's also very common to be used in children's writing and in comic books and subtitles for their newscastings or any programs that because some of the characters that they use are not as used as commonly. So these are used to account for that. And they are also used for words that are native to Japanese that don't have kanji representation for them. So here is an example of them used as phonetic pronunciation. So here, the characters here, the kanji, are called, read as Nihon, which means Japan. This is how you would write down Japan in Japanese. And then the top part is pronounced this is ni, this is ho, and this is n. So it tells you how to pronounce the word if you are unfamiliar with the concept that the kanji represents. Next, we have the writing system katakana. This is also phonetically, based off of phonetics and syllables, and it is also derived, as I failed to mention previously, from the Chinese character representations that are the kanji. So this writing system was primarily used by men originally, and then in the 1900s it was the Japanese government, and culturally it had changed to represent foreign words and words that aren't necessarily native to Japan or Asian countries, and they also use it to emphasize their words or to also use them for onomatopoeias. So this the shape of this writing system is noticeably different. It's more, I would call it more blocky and more linear, as opposed to the previous one, which is more concave and circular and had more gentle curves to them. So right here are examples of how they're used in foreign words and onomatopoeias and words that aren't necessarily represented in their own language. So you have my name here, which is Luisu Morales, and then you have coffee, which is kohi, and then you have the United States, which is America, and then you have an onomatopoeia for your heart beating, which is doki doki, and then for a meow, which we say for a cat, which we would say is the noise a cat makes, is nya to them. So now we're going to move on to the third writing, no, actually we're going to compare the two writing systems. So the one on the left is the hiragana writing system, the one on the right is the katakana writing system. So the hiragana writing system, as you can probably tell, is more circular, it's more concave, it uses more gentle strokes, you can clearly tell that there's a difference between the way that these two are written. And the katakana are more linear, they're more square, they're more, for lack of a better term, choppy in the strokes that they're used. They both represent the same thing phonetically, but their purposes are different. And you could theoretically do all of your writing in both of these writing systems, but that creates a problem because in the Japanese language you have several words that are pronounced the same way but have drastically different meanings. So the most common ones are the number 4, death, and then to buy something and to keep a pet. So the word for is it's pronounced she. The word for death is also pronounced she. When you're writing, you need to make sure that the writer has a knows the distinction between what you're trying to say. Are you trying to talk about death, or are you trying to talk about the number 4? Same thing with the word for pet and to keep a pet and the verb to buy something. To buy something is pronounced cow, and then the word to keep a pet is also pronounced cow. So they sound exactly the same, but they have drastically different meanings behind them. So the third writing system is kanji. And those are the Chinese characters that were borrowed and then used to represent Chinese words and concepts. So they're used for all the verbs, they're used for all the nouns, they're used for all the adjectives. So these are the most common ones that most of my family recognize as types of Chinese characters and kanji. The first one's day, the second one's fire, the third one's water, and the third one is love. There are over 5,000 to 10,000 of different Chinese characters that are used in the Japanese language. And according to omniglot.com, the Japanese government in 1981 created a list of generally used Chinese characters. And there are over 1,945 different characters that are used commonly on a daily basis, and those are that list is used as a guideline for what characters and words that the newspapers generally use there, so people will have an easier time understanding. So how do they all work together is represented in this sample sentence that I have here. So all of the hiragana writing system is in red, all of the katakana writing system is in blue, and I left the kanji in black. So this sentence reads, today I woke up, drank coffee, and came to Fullerton College. So the words represented in black are the kanji. So today I woke up and drink, college, and came are all in black. That's all represented by the black. And then coffee and Fullerton are represented by the katakana because they're foreign words that were introduced later. And then the hiragana is being used to give you grammatical context. Without them, you would not know that we're talking about me, or that I drank coffee, or that I came to college, or that I woke up. This was all done in the past. You would never know that without those. So altogether, they work in order to reduce the ambiguity that can be caused in their written language. So I think it's important to know the different. It's important to know a little bit about other languages so you can better appreciate your own, and hopefully knowing that the ambiguity that exists in other languages could help you appreciate what you know to help prevent ambiguity and how you communicate it right.
All right, Kimberly, what did you think? Kimberly's not here, apparently. Yeah. Dylan missed out on his opportunity to speak the other day, so we're going to plug Dylan in here, and he's going to tell us what he thought. Thank you.
I liked it. I liked how you described the ambiguity in both languages, and how you described how different foreign words came together and what kind of form of that language did it. So I kind of liked how you described each of the three languages and also brought them together. There were a good amount of words on the slides, which I didn't really care about, but I don't know about what others would think, so that's why I'm just telling you to be cautious maybe about that. But the visuals, I liked how you used them and also compared them.
Well, I thought the introduction was really good. It sets up, you've got a reference on communication that is common for everybody at the beginning. There's an issue of ambiguity that you explain with the different sentences. I thought that was fine. There's even a little bit of humor in that. So it sets up some problems with interpretation. And so I think we get a good idea about what it is that you are ultimately going to be talking about. Even though it's specific to a particular language and writing style, we know why it is you're talking about that, and I thought you did a good job on that. There was also a pretty good preview of the three forms that you're going to be discussing. I did think, for instance, that kanji gets referred to well before it's actually defined a couple of times, and I'm going, okay, wait, what does that mean? So that was a little bit confusing. And the problem is that this is something that probably would take a whole lesson in your Japanese class. You'd spend 2 hours just talking about these kinds of things, and you're trying to condense it into a short amount of time. I think you explain it pretty well, but I think our recall on this is going to be really low. It's going to be one of those things where, oh, I remember hearing something about that, but I'm not going to be able to remember many details. It looks a little bit different, and remembering the terms, for instance, maybe if I repeated them in my head a few more times, that would be helpful. So it's not that it was a bad idea to talk about. It's just a little bit tough under the circumstances with the audience that you have and the circumstances which you're speaking in. So I appreciate the goal that you have. Like I said, it might be a little tough for the assignment that you're dealing with. You define all the terms very nicely, though. I do think that we ought to get some citations on that. I know that you're relying a lot on your own experience here, but certainly there's stuff in texts and encyclopedias and
stuff I just forgot to say.
Yeah, and it's stuff that you forgot to say. There were a couple of places where there was some citation. I thought, for instance, when you had some of that historical information about the Japanese government making a decision about how to use the language, you usually had a source citation on something there, but on the other things there wasn't really any citation, and so that's a little bit problematic. One of the things, it's because it's detailed kind of stuff, it's hard for an audience to stay interested for a long period of time without more of the examples. And I thought at the beginning when you did the quotes to explain the ambiguities of language, people could relate to that. At the end, when you had the one with the sentence and you're showing us the contrast there, I think people can kind of relate to that. I think we needed a little bit more of those kinds of things in the speech and other spots. Let me see. So that's a little bit of a problem, but not huge. It's you did everything that I don't have anything that was an unsatisfactory kind of evaluation. It's all just how could you have done something a little bit more effective in the time that you had, and maybe there would be a way to change something and make it work a little bit better. For example, on the slides, I think that you did a good job introducing the slides, showing us the contrast. Especially there was one slide where you had the two forms next to each other, and we could see a little bit about the differences that you were talking about. That last slide where I don't know if it was the last slide, the one where you had the sentence about Fullerton College and having coffee and I got up and all that sort of thing. And then you've got the mixture of all the different types of writing there. That just needed to be bigger. And the colors, you have the colors there. It's a good key. It's a good example of how you're using visual message systems like color to signal something different. But if you can't see it, it doesn't help you very much, and because it's a little bit small, I don't think people, the red, okay, we can pick out the red. The was blue and the black, that's a little bit hard to see, but sometimes even the red was a little bit tough. So if that could have been made just a little bit larger, it probably would have helped that work a little bit better. But those are minor quibbles for the most part. They're not things that it's not like it destroyed your speech or anything. They're just, how could I make this work a little bit better? And it's always easy to sit back here and say, oh, here are 10 things that would make this work better. I know that you guys probably do the same thing when I'm putting up all these slides there and you're going, oh, a nice piece of clip art here would have made it a little bit more interesting. Why do I have to hear an additional story from Richard? How about a picture that goes along with that too? And you're right, and I'm doing the same thing for you. I just happen to be sitting here right now. All right, thank you.